Hey everybody, Anish Majumdar here, career coach to the fiercely ambitious, at you today with a video that anyone who is looking to land a better job or otherwise make a big move up this year should be listening to and taking notes to, okay? If you're watching this, grab a notepad, grab a pen, because if you're familiar with who I am, you know that I'm not an information coach. That's not what I do here. If you're not putting this to use actively to better your circumstances, why are you watching? Go out there, have a beer, enjoy yourself. You know what I mean? But let's not pretend through phony action that we're getting somewhere, okay? Let's actually get there so you can actually feel that abundance and you can actually change your life, because it happens every single day, guys. I know that when you're in the midst of trying to better your situation and all you see are your blinders, that the idea of getting a role, getting a job seems like an impossible task. But I want you to know it happens every single day, at every level, at every strata, in every industry, in every company, in every circumstance. There are people who are getting hired. There are people who are creating roles for themselves. There are people who are doing this a better, more effective way. So it's commonplace out there. And just because you're not seeing it right now, don't let that be a stand-in for it not existing. Okay? So how do we get you there? How do we make sure that the time and the effort that you're putting towards this job search is actively going to work? And I want to lead you through a way of thinking about this that is going to give you major clarity, and it's going to help you identify where, if you are wasting time or if you are, spending it on things that don't make sense, you're going to be able to identify it. And guys, this kind of accountability is something that I wish everyone did, but no one really does. What most people do is they pour endless amounts of time out there trying to better themselves, trying to get that better job, whatever it is. And they look at the amount of time they're spending as being a replacement for the effort. But that would be like saying, I'm in Montreal, I'm trying to get to Los Angeles, and all I know is that I have to walk. So I'm just gonna keep walking until I die. Well, no. Periodically, you need to check and look around and say, hey, what's that weird metal contraption out there on four wheels? That's going a lot faster than I am, right? What's that huge contrail up there? What is that? Is that a plane? That's another way to go. Sometimes we have to stop doing the dumb actions of which a job search is filled, the moronic actions that are going to do nothing but make you feel discouraged, depressed, and more out of sync with what you want. Sometimes it really, really, really pays to stop walking for a moment. Look around. See how much time has passed. How much distance have you covered? How much closer are you to that end goal? And if you don't, or if you feel like you're too far away, now is the moment to make a strategic adjust. Now is the moment to change the how so you get a better outcome now, right? And most people aren't willing to do that. They would rather keep their heads in the sand and work, work, work. And that's how we see otherwise amazing people in job search mode for a year and a half, 2 years. I think the record we've seen has been 4.5 years looking for a job. And none of these people had crazy demons in their history. None of them would ever say would be marked as lesser than or not ideal for what they do, right? That's what happens when you keep your head in the sand, and I don't want you to fall privy to that. So let's start with this question, okay? And write this down. How much time are you currently spending on either finding that new job or finding a new opportunity or networking or doing anything to advance your career beyond where it is today? How many hours per week are you spending? And write that down right now. For many people, especially people who really want this badly, it's not uncommon to see 20 plus hours up on your notepad. It's very, 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 very common to see that. And I would ask you, if this is an urgent priority for you, and you're not spending that kind of time, maybe you're spending 5 hours or 2 hours or 0 hours. Now is the time to ask yourself why. Because it doesn't really make sense, right? How can you, on the one hand, be urgently going after something, and on the other hand, you're not willing to invest a bare modicum of time? Certainly, to use the bike and car analogy and jet analogy, it's true that there are infinitely faster ways to get to your destination. But I would hope that if you're committed to this dream, that you've started walking, you've started doing something in a meaningful way. And so if you haven't, what I would ask yourself is why? Do I feel secretly misgivings about moving into another job like this, in which case maybe it's time to sit and ask yourself, have I really outgrown this level? If you feel like you just left behind a toxic environment and you went right into a job search mode and you can't seem to get motivated or interested, and it's not them, maybe you honestly just need to take a little bit of time for yourself to, if grieving is too hard of a word, just some time to talk it out. Talk about what you experienced. Talk about how hurt you felt, how disappointed you felt. Whatever it is, maybe what you need to do is find what's keeping you from investing that time and going all in, and usually it's a mental or an emotional thing, usually it's something that's wrapped up in our identity and who we think of ourselves. So really that answer is, how much time are you spending? And if it's not an amount that is commensurate with the urgency of your situation, it's time to ask yourself why, and it's time to do the hard work to correct for that and bring that into alignment. Now, assuming there are no issues there, here's the next question, okay? How are you spending those hours per week? And I want you to get granular with this, okay? How many resumes did you send out there? How many interviews have you had? How many networking calls have you had? Split it all apart. How long have you spent on your resume? How long have you spent rewriting your brand, your LinkedIn profile? How exactly were those hours spent? And if you discover that out of those 20 hours, let's say 5 of them were spent just getting worried and endlessly futzing over things that are already probably in a good enough shape, then that those are wasted hours, right? If you know that a whole bunch of time you can't account for, you've just said, yeah, I'm spending 20 plus hours, but maybe a whole bunch of that is you just sitting in front of a computer making up time because you don't want to see your wife or your husband at the end of the day and not be able to say, yeah, I put everything I had towards doing it. Now's the time to do it. But I want you to break it down specifically in terms of your brand. How much time have you spent building the brand? How much time have you spent setting up calls? How many calls have you had? Where have those calls gone? And where have those interviews gone? Okay, so I want you to account for where that time is spent on a typical week. Okay, I also want you to ask yourself, how long have you been doing this? How long have you been operating in this 20-hour or 10-plus hour, whatever, capacity? How long have you been in that mode for? I want you to attach that. Being in a 20-plus hour mode for 3 months is very different from being in it for 1 week, right? I mean, you should be in a totally different place, and you should have an understanding of that as well. Okay, so you've got all of this here. And here's the hard question. Has any of this yielded an offer yet that you're happy with? Yes or no? If it's yes, then ultimately our question is going to be how to do what you're doing better. If it's no, and if by extension it is there's not a chance in hell that what I've done so far is likely to yield an outcome, then we need to change the strategy. Simple as that. You cannot keep walking there. You're never going to get to that destination. You're going to run out of time. So my question to you is, now that you are looking at this in front of you, how much time you're spending every week on this? How long you've been on the hunt for, right? How have you broken down those actions? Specifically, how have those precious time resources been spent across brand, interviews, negotiation, etc.? And then looking at that, I want you to make a decision, and I want you to ask yourself, how likely is it that this path is going to succeed for you? If it's yes, my recommendation is this, and my challenge to you is this. If you're spending 20 hours, I want you for the next week to spend a maximum of 10 on this effort. And by doing that, it's going to force you to look at these different aspects that you're spending the time, cut away the things that don't work, and look for that precious 20% of your effort that is getting 80% of the outcome. Okay? Your job for the next 2 weeks is going to be, you will not have those additional 10 hours. You've got half of that time. So you've got to make it count. You've got to stop BSing yourself, and you've got to make sure that it works. And if you know that just looking at that, the brand is more or less where it needs to be, great. Don't focus on that for 1 minute in terms of the next 2 weeks. If you're looking at it and you're saying, yeah, I'm getting calls regularly, but they're not going anywhere, your challenge for the next 2 weeks is to hold the feet to the fire, ask better questions, be the expert, really probe about what's going on there to turn more of those calls, right? And if you know that you're actually getting the calls, you're getting the interviews, but you're just getting lowballed in terms of the offer, ask yourself, what about my interview strategy can I change? Can I change the way that I'm coming across? Do I need to adapt my brand to project at a higher level to prevent some of these lowball questions, right? Do I need to have a higher range for something that is more commensurate with what I can do, not just what I found on payscale.com, right? Or some other PayScale resource, right? I want you to force yourself by stripping away the excess time to only do those things that really matter. And in such a way, you're going to magnify your way to an outcome. Now, here's for everyone who can't say yes. Here's to everyone who's looking at this and saying, yeah, I did the best that I could for the last 6 months or 3 months or 2 months or whatever, but I see the results here. I was honest enough with myself to be accountable. And I have to say, even if I had another 3 months, 6 months, a year, it's unlikely. I mean, the brand is not working where it needs to be. I'm not getting enough calls, never on a week-to-week basis. Those calls that I'm getting for seem to be for the wrong opportunities or the lowball opportunities. And I spend most of my time talking and trying to prove myself to gatekeepers who don't seem to care about who I am or what I do. And if that's where you're at, and you're just looking at the hard numbers there, and congratulations to you for having the balls and the courage to do that. If you're looking at that and the answer is no, you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that what needs to change is not putting more hours into it, more time into it. What needs to change is what you're doing. In other words, you have a walking versus car versus jet problem. You don't have a problem of you're already in a car and you just need to speed it up. Or you're already in a jet, you just need to tap on the pilot's door and be like, hey, how much closer are we to the destination? Give me some extra peanuts, right? You're not there. And so it's very important that you have that realization now so you can take ownership of changing it. And what I want you to do right now, if that answer is no in your situation, I want you to go over to helloanish.com right now. I have a masterclass queued up, ready to go. It's going to be about 45 minutes to an hour. And it will be the best hour that you spend all week on your career because it is going to show you exactly what I recommend in terms of the big shifts you need to make across all of these areas so you're flying in jet mode, not walking mode. There is no comparison. And if you do this, I give you my word that the hour that you spend on this is going to make up for itself 100 times over in terms of the speed and the efficacy with which you get to that outcome. And isn't that what we're after? It's not about your 20 hours or 10 hours, is it? It's not about how you do it or how much pain and suffering and doubt you have. Ultimately, it's about an amazing person, you, being given the opportunity to play ball in the arena that you know you excel in. So go make that happen and stop ducking your head in the sand and doing stuff that is never going to work and saying, yeah, I did what I did. Nope, you did what you did by facing the biggest fear with courage and moving through that. And that's why I'm recommending this right now. helloanish.com, HELLOANISH.com. Sign up, watch it, absorb it, implement it. You're in a different place. Why would you ever not do that? Okay? So go after it right now. And to each and every one of you, I am sending out much love your way, much positivity your way. Don't get stuck by what all the people out there want you to do, which is to get into fear mode, okay? That stuff is so crazily blown out of proportion, and it has ultimately nothing to do with you and your dream. Groups can go, groups can rise, groups can fall. Individuals do what they want to do. So if that is you, I encourage you to go over there right now, make that shift, and stay hungry, stay fighting for what you know is right, okay? We need you now more than ever. All right, guys, talk to you soon.